Hello everybody and welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Deborah Hatswell and you're listening to BBR Investigations. Today I'm sharing a chat that I had with my friend Andy. Andy actually runs the podcast for UFOs and other paranormal stuff, and I've added a link to his podcast in the description below. And he's telling me or explaining to me at the time when he worked at Croyden railway station and he saw a mystery Japanese ghost, and how that may be tied in to something happened many years before. Well, I remember how I met you. I actually met you through a witness, believe it or not. A lady that we both know well, and she lost her purse in the town where I lived. And to trace her, I went on Facebook actually looking for her, and she got in touch. And she told me herself about an experience that she'd had when she was a child. And that's how you got to know each other, isn't it? Yeah,
that's right. It is, hey.
And then I had a witness from Buxton who went out to film with the TV crew. And you remember you asked me what they were doing, and I said that he'd been followed one night down the train track by what he believed to be a black panther that actually sat and stared at him for quite a long number of minutes. And you said that you used to work on the railway and you understood that quite well, and that you'd seen a railway ghost, which absolutely intrigued me. Do you mind telling me a bit about that?
No, I don't mind at all. It was at East Croyden Station, a place I'd worked. I think I'd been there for about 6 years by this point, and there was nothing weird. Well, there was loads of weird things that used to happen there, but nothing paranormal, shall we say, up to that point. That's what made it even more stranger. And what happened was, it was the middle of the day. I'll give a bit of context. East Croyden Station is a 3-platform station. It's got 3 island platforms.
Yeah.
Platform 1 and 2, platform 3 and 4. Sorry, excuse me, and platform 5 and 6. And I was standing in the middle of platform 3 and 4, right by the new bridge that they've got there. If you're able to check it out on Google Maps, you'll see the new bridge and everything. And just to help people on their way, tell them where to go over the new bridge and that. And there was a few people who come to me, as usual, asking what train they need to get on, and I'd direct them on their way. But this old man, he looked Japanese to me, but he looked so very old. I wondered, I was looking around seeing if I could see his carers or relatives, because he looked over 90.
Right.
And I thought it's very odd to see people that age without somebody with them.
Yeah.
And he came to me and he was saying something to me, but it was whispering. I couldn't hear him at all. It was a quiet day at the station. I couldn't hear this bloke at all. So then he showed me a piece of paper, and it had Horsham written on it. Horsham's a station down on the way to Southampton, I think it is. So I said, okay. He obviously might not have been able to understand my English.
Yeah.
So I had to tell him where to go, but I had to sort of go upstairs across to the platform 5. The train had been there in about 10 minutes. But I felt so worried for this bloke that I decided to contact the person who was standing in the middle of the platform on platform 5 and 6, and 1 and 2 as well. Called them by radio, and I said, see this bloke here, you need to just keep an eye on him, because he's very old. He might get a bit lost. He wants I think it's the 21 past Horsham train. I can still remember the timetables now. That was years ago. And I said, they said, we'll keep an eye on him. So, okay, off he went. He went into the lift, and that was the last I saw of him. About a few minutes later, the person on platform 5 and 6 said to me, where is this bloke?
Yeah.
I haven't seen him. He hasn't come down. So I thought, okie doke, I better call the person over on platform 1 and 2 as well.
Yeah, in case he's got confused and got the wrong.
That's right. Because it's a funny little setting. You go in the lift one way, and to come out the lift, you've got to go out the side door.
Yeah, it's a similar station. Yeah.
It's very confusing. And so they'd never seen him either.
Right.
And I thought, right, I've got to put out a call to the rest of the station, including the gate line upstairs. They didn't see him, and they were on the gates all the time. They didn't see him coming out. No one at the other end of the platforms. The stairs come off the bridge and they go down to the other end of the platforms. They'd never seen him. So I'm thinking, where's this bloke gone? This is a missing persons now, and I'm the last person to speak to him.
Yeah.
So there's one more place that he might have gone to, because one of the lifts, only one of the 3 lifts, goes right down to the old basement.
Right.
But you need a special key for that. Yeah. Or you need somebody who's in the basement to press the button to get it to call down. So I told a colleague to go down there and have a look. No one there. And that's got a locked gate, so they couldn't have got out.
No.
So I'm thinking, this is getting a bit weird. We've got to call management in now.
Yeah, because what if he stumbled onto the track, or he's wandered off further down the track? Yeah. And
he could have gone anywhere. Mm-hmm. So manager came to me. I'd said basically everything I'd said to you now. Mm. And she said, right, we'll have to put an all stations report out just in case this bloke's gone to anywhere.
Yeah.
And for that day, that was all we could do about it. Although I was wandering around like this, looking to see if I could see the bloke. I was looking for him for days after.
Right.
And she comes back to me a couple of days later, I think it was about a week later, and she says, we put an all stations report out and no one's got back to us. There are something like 230 stations. All the stations that we've got people there, no one saw anything.
No.
All the train guards, no one saw him. All the unmanned stations, no CCTV has reported anything. And I said, okay, what about the CCTV here?
Yeah.
And she said, well, that's the weird thing that I needed to tell you about, because the lift, even though it was new, the CCTV wasn't working inside the lift. And apparently the CCTV that looks directly at the lift door wasn't working either. But that one had only just stopped working at the very time that apparently the bloke had got into it, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
But the new bridge has got CCTV cameras looking at it from both ends. I think from basically all over. It's got more cameras than the Big Brother house.
Yeah, definitely.
And they said they couldn't see a thing. Couldn't see anything. Nobody came out of that lift. So where he's gone, I don't know. I mean, he looked out of place anyway. He looked very out of place to me, but he's gone. And
I mean, for people listening in other countries, you can't move in the UK without being on a camera.
No, that's right. There's a camera everywhere.
They're everywhere, aren't they? And station, you get a lot of train dodgers who won't pay the fare. So it's quite hard to get in and out of a station unseen,
That's right.
And what is his story? Can you imagine? Someone out there knows his story, and why he was there that day. And wow.
I'd love to know.
And the fact he still felt his energy for a number of days is really interesting as well to me.
I wondered if he was, I don't know, hiding around behind one of the coffee huts or in the waiting room. I was looking at everyone, making sure they weren't him or, And I was looking everywhere. I knew the station inside out and, all the little cubby holes, and I was looking everywhere. Couldn't find him. I didn't know where he'd gone. It was really sort of strange. And that was the weirdest thing that had happened at that place. Mm. Well, apart from some of the drunk customers, but we won't talk about them. You get a few.
You said something that I hadn't resonated with me. You said, obviously, there's lots of people that have died on the railway, making the railway, in natural disasters and things, and people who've taken their own lives. And I never really, I thought, I never thought about it that way. It is just a building that maybe holds all of this resonance, and you tuned in. Maybe you're the only person that day that could see him.
It could well be.
Why? What was his message? Why was he going to Horsham?
Oh, I'd love to know.
Yeah.
I mean, Horsham's a lovely place, but I don't know. It just seemed weird or really odd.
It is really odd. Most people I speak to have an experience that they can't explain. They'll say they might not have had a cryptid experience, a ghost experience, but there'll be something that's happened in they just cannot put the finger on and don't have an answer to it. And sometimes you just have to accept that you just probably never going to know. I mean, you don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
But more than likely, we'll never know what his story was, unfortunately.
That's right. I wish I did. I did.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. I've done a few. I don't do a lot of paranormal work online. I tend to do that privately, because the situations I work in is normally when the family's at the absolute end and they've tried everybody else and they can't get anywhere. So I've worked with a lot of spirit and I've crossed a lot of spirit over, and each of them have a reason for being here.
That's right.
It might not be understandable to us at the time, but to them it's incredibly important, and it's holding them here.
That's right. I've heard.
And it could be like that for him. That station, that journey might have been incredibly special to him in some way.
That's right.
Maybe he's just making it as he would and did back in his day when he was alive.
That's right. I've racked my brains on it how many times, and like I said, Horsham is on the way to the south coast. Horsham's actually on the way to Southampton.
Right.
It's on the branch line that goes down to Southampton for the southern services. So I'm wondering if maybe in his life, when he was alive, he was on his way maybe to meet somebody in Horsham and then go off down to Southampton, which would have been the international hub of Britain in those days, or one of the big international hubs in those days. I
would follow your gut on that, because obviously you've been able to connect to him. So to me, that's information. 2024, they'll tell us to explain that away. Just whimsical thought. And it isn't. We can pick up on other people's energy because we're energetic beings.
That's right, we are. It was Einstein that said that energy doesn't disappear, it just transfers into something else.
Exactly that.
There you go.
I've worked with a few people who are passing over.
No.
Normally, if they've had a bad event around that time, or if sometimes it's because they have something they haven't shared and they're worried that it's going to send them to a bad place. So a lot of the work I do is to say to them, you're just going to become another form of energy. You get to choose whatever you want to be as you pass. Right. You can come back as a sunlight, you can come back as a robin. Love's love, and it transcends with that energy when you go, and you can tap back into your loved ones and pay them a visit and things. And
that's right.
It's the nicer side of things that I do that, especially when I've done some cases where they haven't known that they've passed, where they've been here just going about their everyday life, feeling very frustrated. And then you explain to them that you actually passed in an accident. It went very fast and you passed. And then I asked for the loved ones to come in, and we kind of pass them over that way. But all of that subject absolutely fascinates me.
Does me as well.
When did it start for you, if you don't mind me asking? When that's not your experience, I wouldn't imagine.
No, I think my first weird, in inverted commas, experience happened, I think it was about 1998. And there's a bit of a Japanese connection here as well. 1998, I was very young at the time. We all were, and we still are. And it was the first time that my mum and dad had gone away on holiday, and my brother as well. And I had the house to myself. So I thought, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm just going to do what I want. It's my day off. Do what I want. So I went and had a bath. I think I went and had a bath about 2:00, strangely. My dad was adamant about security and safety for me, because I was only, 19, 20 years old. He said that front door, back door's got to be locked when I'm in the house or out the house.
Yeah.
Which I did. So I'm in the bath, and I could hear this noise from downstairs. We've been living in this house, about 10 years, 11 years by then. And again, nothing strange had happened till that point. And I could hear the middle door closing. It's a big door, partly made of wood, but there's a big glass pane in it. And when it closed, you can hear it. And I'm thinking that door was wedged open. So the only way that it would close is if there's a big bit of wind that's coming from the back or the front door, which there couldn't have been because it was locked.
Yeah.
Or if somebody had kicked the wedge
out of the way.
I'm sitting there Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking, it's a bit odd. It's strange. I thought nothing of it. Then I could hear a thud coming from what would have been behind my head, which would have been down at the bottom of the stairs.
Mm.
I was upstairs at the time, and I'm thinking there's somebody in the house. I'm 20 odd years old, somebody in the house. No one else is there. No mobile phones. I couldn't jump for a phone and call 999. And then I could hear another thud, and it sounded like it was coming up the stairs.
Oh.
And it didn't sound like the neighbours next door.
No.
Even though their staircase was right next to our wall, because they were pensioners. They would have really had to be. Sorry, go on.
You're used to their noises. They'd have just been noises for you because you heard them every day.
That's right. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm getting a bit worried now because it sounds like there's somebody with really heavy boots on coming up the stairs. So I leaned behind me and reached into the cupboard that was behind me, and I pulled out my dad's old, what do you call it, like loft door opening stick kind of thing. So I'm sitting there in the bath. I mean, it sounds funny now. I'm sitting there in the bath holding this wooden stick, ready to hit somebody who was about to come in. And I could hear him coming right up to the top step, which was only 2 or 3 feet behind where I was. And I was sitting there thinking there's somebody about to come in. And I thought, right, wait a minute. Waited a few more moments. And I went out the door. And there's no one there. And I thought, what on earth is going on? And I thought, I can't tell my mum and dad this. But I decided that... Sorry, go on.
First time you're on your own and it all goes paranormal. I better not tell my mum and dad.
My mum and dad were very, very religious, you see.
Yeah,
and you know, they probably wouldn't have believed me. So I thought. But they came back a couple of days later. And I thought to myself, I've got to tell him. There was something in the house which couldn't be seen but could be heard. And I said to me, mum and dad, I could hear somebody walking upstairs right behind me. It was clear as anything, not next door. Old people, like you said, we know the sounds of them. And I said, it sounded like a ghost. And I was expecting them to give me a look of ridicule. And my mum looked at me and said, and maybe it was the old person who used to live here. I said, what do you mean by that? And he said, one of the people that used to live here, he said he killed himself in the garage down the end of the garden there. And he said, and she said, I've never heard that before. I said to her, I've never heard that before. And she said, yeah, it's in the records. And she got some, I don't know, was it deed poll or house records or something out. And he killed himself in the garage because apparently he was a prisoner of war in Japan.
Right.
In the World War II. Yeah. And of course that had affected him so much so that he decided to end his life. Turned on the car engine and just sat in the garage for a couple of hours. Right. And he asphyxiated himself. And that was almost 20 years to the day before before he started walking up the stairs behind me. Yeah. Yeah. And you up on that. I wonder if those two events are connected in any way. I do wonder. That's the point. Do you know what? I never thought of that. Because he's a Japanese person who's obviously from Japan, and then you've got this Jen. I mean, it's understandable. I know my granddad had an awful time in Burma. Awful time. Right. It ruined him. The things that they had to see over there. There could have been a connection somewhere in some. I do wonder. Yeah, I mean, as a paranormal investigator, I'd be looking down that line now, and you kind of tie them together. Sorry, excuse me. Maybe, Andy, if we could find his name, we could apply for his war record. You could do that. You can do it online through the government website. You just apply and it's free. And they'll just tell you yes or no where they served and things like that. I've just done it for my mum actually because she wants to know about her dad. So that might clue us into something. But for me, there seems to be, could be a connection there. Yeah, maybe. Or something down the line in your DNA, maybe. But it's you who's clearly sensitive to this energy. That's right. Yeah. That's right. It was, that was weird. That was weird. And that was at a time, 1997. That was at a time when I was a complete non-believer, just like me, mum and dad, complete non-believer. UFOs, ghosts, didn't believe in any of it. I couldn't even watch the X-Files because I thought that was just comedy. Now, completely changed now. I can't get enough of the X-Files now.
His answer, got the answer. I need to know what it was that I saw that day. I had experiences when I was a little girl. I've always had them. It's always been in my bedroom, and it's always terrified me. It's frightened me. And I'm 56 now, and I still experience it. And I've never, throughout life, I never put those two incidents together. They were very, very separate, because everything stopped for me about age 7 or 8. I think I managed to shut it down, and nothing had happened at all. And so to be 15 and that happened that day, just suddenly confronted with something that looks like a monster. For all I freaked out at the time, and I was terrified, and I was terrified for a good 20 years, I needed to know. I really needed to know what it was. I wanted to know, was he a time slip? You know, was it something paranormal? Was it something I did? Was he going to come back and get me? And that's what got me started on what I do, obviously speaking to other people. And I'm all about connections and patterns. So with you, instantly it's like, this guy's served in Japan and this guy's a Japanese ghost. You clearly picked up on that nationality. But
that's right.
Fascinating.
I don't think there's a link there.
I would. I mean, personally, I'm going to see if I can find. I've got a few researchers at work, and they've got access to newspaper articles, things that I don't have access to that you have to pay for. But because of obviously do, and I know a few genealogists as well who don't mind working on things because they're interested in it. So I'm in quite a good spot to be with that. So we'll have a chat offline, and you tell me privately whereabouts the house was and stuff when you're ready, and I'll reach out to a few people and see, and maybe they can help with the mystery of the thing.
That'd be interesting. I'd love to put the two pieces of that puzzle together, if they can go together, and I'm sure they can.
It's like the lady we were talking about when me and you met. She had never together. What she described to me, what she saw is like a sickly wolf-looking thing. It had yellow eyes, and it was on the golf course. And obviously, she said she was terrified of it, really, really sad, and that's understandable. And she'd written it down in a diary. It has such a marked effect on her. She wrote it down in a journal. But even she went back to the golf course next couple of days and actually asked the golfers, have you seen anything that looked like this? And I said to her, what's your earliest memory of an unexplained event? And she said, when I was little, every night when I went to bed, there'd be an invisible wolf in the corner of the bedroom, and my dad would have to come in, clip a pretend lead on it and take it out, and I couldn't go to sleep. And I cannot tell you how many witnesses I've heard that from. They've had this imaginary wolf in the bedroom that the parents have had to come in and remove. And they suddenly have an interest in the paranormal or the cryptid subjects, and did in search of answers, something that frightened them as a child. You can grow to a point where you need the answers more than the fear.
That's right.
And that's what
you do.
Yeah, you cure fear by understanding it, don't you? You know what it is that you're scared of. If I and he didn't do anything to scare me. He didn't put his arm out. He didn't growl at me. He didn't do anything to elicit that fear. But his just very presence was enough, for me.
Oh yeah.
And I was often
scare you.
Oh, it'd be horrible, horrible.
Do you know what that you're saying there about the father figure coming in and putting like a pretend lead on the thing? I've heard that before. Not personally. I've heard that on other podcasts. Yeah. So that just goes to show you that this thing happens more than we might think. That's right.
It really does. I spoke to a lady today, and she said a similar thing, but she didn't call him a wolf. She called it a dog. And she was out with her dog, walking a dog, and she'd had this experience. She said there was something within the tree line. I don't know what it was. I don't know. I didn't see it. But I just felt abject terror, and I said to her the same. Did you ever have any paranormal experiences as a kid? And she said, this dog. We used to have this black dog that used to be at the bottom of the bed, and it used to terrorise me. And I said, I know what that's like. I've spoken to people before. I used to think they were the minority, but they're not. They're not. No, there's so many. There'll be people listening tonight who would like, oh my, that happened to me, or something similar happened to me. You just
There will
don't
be.
know.
There's loads of people out there, and I'd love to hear the stories.
Yeah,
and I'd love to know. I'd love to know personally how many of them come from Suffolk, because there's a very famous. You more than likely you've heard about it. There's a very famous story of Blackshook.
yeah, the Blackshook.
Yeah, I've heard loads and loads about it.
There's a lot of reports in Sussex. I take them all the time.
That's right.
So that's why I plot them on a map, so I don't lose them. I know what's going on at one time. And it seems to be an area where the land's very ancient. So you've still got some of your ancient forest there that we don't have in other parts of the UK. And
whereabouts is that? Sorry.
No,
whereabouts?
Sorry.
Whereabouts was that? Sorry.
Is it Savernake? I always get the name of it wrong. Savernake Forest. It's got the biggest bellied oak in England. I'll look it up for you and I'll make sure I've got the right place. Yeah. But I've worked a lot of cases. You've got the Sussex puma down there as well, haven't you? So you can imagine how often that comes into me. Strange deer heads found in the middle of a path. No body, just the head. All manner of strange things. Trying to think off the top of my head. I remember speaking to a witness who was a Wiccan, and she said we were all out there and we were drumming. It was the solstice. She said, and we could hear something creeping up through the grass, and just it was clearly watching it. We don't know what it was. It never rose onto 2 feet or anything like that. And she said at the time, it almost had like a red sheen to its eyes, and that comes up really often. That red-eyed thing that people say. I wish if I'd had my map open, I'd have been better. I could have told you everything I had in Sussex.
Sussex is definitely a place. I'm going to have to look more into there.
Yeah.
Well, that's only a little bit. 10 miles south of where I'm living now, so it's not too far away.
No, not at all.
And there's the is it Ashdown Forest?
Ashdown Forest, yeah. Ashdown Forest as well.
It's where Winnie the Pooh was written.
Was it? I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I'm just going to grab me map. Give me 1 second. I know Ashdown Forest because there's a gentleman that I've worked with a number of years, and he had his first experience there when he was about 5.
Aye.
He described it as almost like, the words he used was hairy fairy folk. And I asked him why, and he said, well, that's what they look like. They were really big and hairy, but they flitted in and out of the trees. He was playing a game with his brother, running around and playing. He was in there with his parents. And that's when he saw it. And he's actually a cryptid investigator now because of that experience. Right, let me have a look what I've got. So I've got this one here. Something moved. Let me grab it. It's at, I have to move it just so I can see the name of the place. Black Hill. And so just to the southeast of Ashdown Forest. And it's this came in on the 31st of July 2021. At the end of July, I had a bit of a strange experience when I was out with my partner. We went deer or animal watching in East Sussex. I take the eye binoculars with us, and it makes it much easier to see the deer in the dim light. We were parked up in our usual spot, and we'd been sitting there for a moment when we heard a loud gunshot and the noise of a peed off stag. Bearing in mind its hunting and culling had started. About 30 seconds after the gunshot and stag, some noises came, and something stood at the back of the car and blocked out what little light there was in the rearview mirror. It was as if something had moved behind the car and was big enough to block out all the light. It was clearly a large but silent object. We heard no movement, and it was almost like someone was walking behind the car silently. I instantly put all of the lights on, and there was nothing out there, nothing to be seen. I checked, and there was no other people or cars in the area. So we just got out of there pretty sharpish.
I bet they did.
I know, I bet they did. She does state that she felt the energy change, almost like an energy change. And she goes on, it's quite a long experience. But yeah, I didn't know Winnie the Pooh. It's there. There's a Dogman report, East Grinstead. You've got 2 reports at Tunbridge Wells of a Bigfoot-like creature. And then if you head down, say you were going down to the coast, you've just got a band all along that's the south coast of really, really UFO reports, paranormal reports, cryptid reports.
Clapham Wood.
Yeah, exactly, all of that.
Yeah.
You're in the right place. You're in a better place than me in the northwest of England if you want paranormal stuff.
Oh, that's right. That's right, so I've heard.
I've never had an experience with a ghost, what you would class as a, like a typical ghost kind of thing. But I think that's because when I was growing up, I always imagined ghosts to be like, like, I don't know, like Victorian chains and, the typical thing that you have in your head. But I was once coming home with my friend. I lived in just a normal town, really. It was a mining village, and it just got bigger as time went on. And it would have been 91, 92, something like that. And it was about 1:30 in the morning, but it was a walk we did quite often. And we're walking up, and they used to have these big, like 3-story Victorian homes, and they were kind of rooming houses, so you'd have different families on each floor, and they'd share the back kitchen. And we'd done the walk so many times, never felt anything eerie or anything like that. And as we come over the bridge, something in my head said, "Don't look, don't look." And as it said it, my friend went to look, and I said it out loud again. And I don't know why, but I looked. And there was
didn't you?
There was
it's like when someone says don't look down, the first thing you do is look down, straight away.
I think because I didn't want her to look at it, I went, no, don't look. And I looked, and it was a dead woman in the chair.
Ooh.
And we just carried on walking a few steps, but my brain's processing at this point that all of the room's blue, and she's blue, and the chair's blue, and it's just something not right. There's something not right. And I walk back, and she's not there. The room's completely different. But for that split second, she was just like this in the chair. And it was absolutely terrifying. And I just never, I'm not, I was a bit of a scaredy cat back then when it came to stuff like that. So it's just like, I'm not going that way again. I'm never walking up Derby Road again in my life.
Blame you.
I don't think I ever did. But yeah, things like that happen for me more so than actual like spirit, that people see spirit. It just, I don't know. I think it's different for all of us, isn't it?
I think so. Hey,
yeah.
I think so. I think many people have got a connection. Some people have got a more stronger connection than other people. And I think it's like Dr. Stephen Greer said about people who see UFOs. You get some people who see UFOs every single night, every single day.
Yeah.
Then you get people who look up at the same time and they don't see anything.
They don't know.
People have connections. Some people are stronger. I think they definitely are.
I do. I've spoken with people who've said that they've been able to communicate. They've kind of gone, right, well, if you are there for me, flash twice or something. And it's actually happened, I just think it's changed, hasn't it? I think you've noticed as well, from about 2019, things have really ramped up. So that there's more paranormal experiences, more cryptid experience, more people coming forward and looking for answers. And I don't know why. Obviously, I've got a few theories and conspiracy theories and things like that, but I can't prove it. I can't put my finger on it. But something's definitely changed, because the way the government speaks to us now has changed. So it's all about stay in your house. You stay at home, buy offline. You don't need to go to the club. We'll have a Zoom meeting. It's all engineered to stay at home. And I just wonder why. Why do they need us in the house? Is safe. And I'm seeing Dogman report after Dogman report after Dogman report coming in, Not even frightening or scary attacks. Worked 2 cases this week. 2 women, don't know each other, live 20 minutes by the crow flies apart. She gets in touch with me just before Christmas. Stay again, walking the dog, something in the tree line. She goes to step forward, and it says, "Do not come in here. You do not want to see me." And she backed out and went. And then I've got another lady, October 2021, walking down the path. When you used to get an old railway track, and now they kind of pave it, and you can set the bike, the dogs, and in that kind of situation. Really poor sight. Her sight's very bad. So she's got the dog clipped on to a harness on her chest. I saw a dark movement and I presumed it was like a lad on a silent scooter. She said, and he was moving so quickly that I said, stop, you're going to hit me. And he did. She said he stopped immediately in front of me, about a foot away. And I can see out of my peripheral. And in my peripheral, I can see a torso that's covered in hair, very thickly muscled, doesn't smell, doesn't stink, doesn't growl at her, just looks at her, makes eye contact. Mm-hmm. She said it took 2 steps, covered 10 feet, and was gone in the woods.
No.
So it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't there to hurt her or harm her. She felt that she just caught it out.
No, that doesn't surprise me at all. You have to wonder about all these animals that were sort of hidden away before. Sorry, I've got a really funny cough today.
I know, we've all got it. You don't worry about it.
I think it's passing. I think it's going around. All these animals, all these cryptids that were, or animals that were living on the land before towns really did expand, before cities and towns expanded, and they were probably living in the peripheral then. You couldn't see them, and they've had to go sort of elsewhere. You look at Ashdown Forest, you look at the Highlands in Scotland, the Lake District, the New Forest, all those places. There's loads of places where they could go and hide.
Yeah, there is. I agree. Look at the Northeast Coast. If you look at the Northeast Coast from the tip of Britain all the way to the top of Scotland, on each old military installations, we have a report of a dog-like creature or a Bigfoot-like creature, always on military defence land, all the way from the old stinker of the olden days to very, very modern day reports. You know, and I know some people poo-poo them. I get that. I understand that. But I sit down with the witnesses and I recognise that I see the trauma, because I work with people consistently who are trying to work through a situation. You know, I didn't know that you'd taken big dogman reports. I was unaware of that. I didn't know that.
I'd seen one dogman report. It was called The Beast of Box Hill. Right. Box Hill is part of the Surrey Hills. Lovely place near Dorking. It is a beautiful hill. If you're ever down there, go and have a look. I've been there hundreds of times, so I read it. No, I first heard about it on one of the paranormal activity podcasts by Vet Fielding, and I thought, I'm not sure whether I believe this or not. But then there was another one on one of her other podcasts, and I thought, I'm going to have to read up on this. And I did a bit of checking on the internet, and it was actually in one of the newspapers. Somebody's reported a dogman or a beast in Box Hill. I actually did an episode on it last year. I tried to get the person who'd reported on it on the podcast, but for whatever reason they didn't want to come on, which is fine.
Yeah.
And they give a pretty sort of big story about this sort of beast, dogman thing that's, again, furry, smelled a little bit, and she described the eyes. Was it red or orange or yellow? I can't remember. Yeah. Apparently that person had lived there and hadn't seen it for the entire time that she'd lived there, 20 odd years. And then it sort of showed up when all the visitors had gone away from Box Hill. She sort of saw it in one of the bushes or something, walking around. And then someone else said they seen the same thing. So I think these things are definitely there. And I think the reason why, as you said before, that a lot of people are coming forward with this, with the paranormal stories, UFOs, ghosts, and everything, is because people like you and me tell real stories.
Yeah, and
tell the big stories and real stories from the real person, and that emboldens these people to think, I can tell my story as well now. I can come forward and maybe get a bit of help, talk to somebody, get it off my chest. But I think you and I help people do that. And I think in a sort of roundabout way, we've helped the paranormal come out and be more accepted.
Yeah, we're normalising it for people. Going to blow your mind a bit. Got some cases at Box Hill. There's somebody who was running up and down the hill, the steps, training.
Yeah, I've been there a few times.
And they saw what they described as an ape-like creature that stood there and watched them. Now, Box Hill is named Box Hill because of the box plants. It's a very old, ancient land, and it was grown for making furniture. So that's where the name comes. There is a very famous missing person case there. A young girl who was 16 got out of a taxi cab at Box Hill, never seen again.
Yeah. See.
Yeah, I'll send you the link to it. It's in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Quite a famous case. Never found her, never found her clothing, nothing, none like that. And it's quite close to Dorking Deepdene, isn't it?
Yes.
Right, so Dorking Deepdene, you've got two lads, and they are urban explorers, and they want to go in the old train tunnels. Is it World War II tunnels underneath there? And they decided they're going to hang out in the trees till everyone goes home, and then they're going to do a video for YouTube. I think I might have added that on. I don't think they were doing a video. I think they were there. He was there with his brother. He'd been there before. His brother wanted to go, and he said they were just waiting out for people to go. And he said sometimes you can hear a dog in the background barking, and you don't really take it on until it stops. He said, and when this dog stopped barking, we suddenly realised it had gone completely silent. And he said something he couldn't see, completely invisible, but it was moving the bushes. It was thumping and banging and making a complete racket at him, almost like a gorilla doing a bluff charge.
Yeah.
Pair of them. And a few years later, a lady got in touch with me, and she said, I've seen you've worked some cases in Dorking Deepdene. I actually was going to meet my friend. She said, there's a really nice place where you can go and have like lunch, and that's where I was going. She said, and as I'm walking the woodland, she called it this incredible stomping thing. She said there was something in there that I couldn't see, but it was pounding the ground and making an awful racket. And she actually ran. She said, I grabbed my skirt and I ran. And when I got there, my friend said, oh my goodness, what's happened to you? She said, and I felt a right idiot telling her, but I had to. She said there was something in those bushes, and it was shadowing her on her walk. So maybe if we combine our cases, if I send you the ones that I've got there, because it's an area where, I mean, you can keep on top of it much better than I can. I'm stuck up here in the northwest of England. I might even be able to get her to speak to you. I'll email her when we finish talking and see if she'll have a chat with you.
No, that would be good if you could.
Yeah, no, I don't mind at all. Because sometimes it's nice if an investigator can go to the area.
That's right.
Either with them or without them, and then go through the day again with them and see how they feel. One thing that might be important, when there's an ancient burial site at Dorking Deepdene. When they were building the tunnels for the World War II, they actually disturbed some of that ground. And it was at that point that people started reporting wolf-headed men within the tunnels.
That's strange.
There was a huge paranormal team came over from America and did a paranormal night there, trying to connect with these wolfmen. And they were telling stories of like the guides that were down there that had seen them during the war, and they were described as wolf-headed men, like they were at Alconbury, just completely covered in hair, but men with an Alsatian's head, German Shepherd's head. I don't know what I'd do if I did that. Can you imagine that?
I'd be away. I'd run down the hill and get on the first train out of there, I think.
No, I think so.
I want to go back and investigate a bit more, you know what I mean?
I know. We should really leave them wanting more, shouldn't we? So I can bring you back on for part 2. But what that me to do is, if anybody's got any information out there for Andy or for me, please get in touch. Andy will have links on his episode, and I'll have links on my episode. Because as I say, Andy's actively looking for cases in that area, because each case can give us a tiny clue to what's going on in these areas of high strangeness, because Sussex is an area of high strangeness.
Oh, it definitely is. It definitely is. I'm going to have to look into it more. I used to think that Suffolk was very, very high strangeness, but I think Sussex definitely is as well.
Yeah, I'm going to send you all my cases now so you can read them. And it might tie into what you're working on as well. So we'll definitely be bringing everybody an update.
Definitely.
But for tonight, don't you go anywhere. Thank you to everyone that's tuned in.
Thank you.
And we'll see you again.
We definitely will. Take care. Have a good day.